Hello, listeners. This is Mulberry Bush 934 with another episode of Mulberry Trimmings. Tonight's show, like previous episodes, will be on YouTube. Listeners and followers can find links to the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Google as Around the Mulberry Bush. The theme for tonight's show is actually going to be a three-part series. A friend of mine, Kelly from Lago, Taro, and I had a conversation on Hellenistic Astrology, and this is the third of three segments of that call. I should just ask if someone wanted to get in touch with you for your services or what have you, tell me everything as far as the best way to go about that, I guess.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for asking. So I'm based in Jacksonville, and so if you're local to Jacksonville or St. Augustine, we can meet in person. There's my website, so I operate under the name Lago Taro. That's two words, LAGOTARO, LagoTaro.com. That's my website. You can schedule a phone, video, or an in-person reading. So if you're outside of Jacksonville, I can be reached in all the technology ways. Also, Lago Taro on Instagram and Facebook. Not that I love spending a lot of time on social media platforms, but if you want to see what I'm up to, that's a good thing to check out. I do events in the city, like right now. A restaurant in Town Center has hired me to read for its guests, so I'm there every other Tuesday. And you can find those dates on my website or Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to, when I'm making the video part of this, include that on my video?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that too then. Cool.
I'm a one-woman shop, as most, people who do divination or psychic readings, all that are. So a lot of it will get kind of scheduled through the website. I love meeting people on the phone, answering your questions before the session. It's a cool thing, but we don't have a lot of literacy about divination. And so I really love talking to people to kind of answer those general questions on what can you expect and how will it go. I'm really big on preparation and just asking or answering people's questions when they have general curiosity. So you can always give me a ring, an email, contact me through the website. I do respond, and I love it when I get an incoming inquiry.
Good deal. I look at it on a multi-dimensional level. I think we have the choice to go left or right, and in some circumstances we chose both. We're just only aware of the one that we did. We are only conscious of the reality that we're in order of. But we can go multi-ways. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell clients, you were fated to probably be a parent in this lifetime. Now, did it mean that it had to happen to you as a teenager? Could it have happened to you later in life? That's where your free will affects how you experience it. But you were more than likely fated to have that super close connection where you parented a new soul, you were affected by your child, and it was always going to happen. Or you might be fated to have adopted children or have to look out for your siblings' children. But you were always going to play that caretaking role. How it expressed itself is the way that your free will was talking to fate. Because then I go on to always kind of give this analogy, the second analogy. But they all help. I know it seems like it can be one analogy after another. And this isn't mine. I think this comes from my teacher, maybe someone that he studied from. But it was, we're each handed sheet music when we come to Earth. And your sheet music, Jeremy, is different than my sheet music. And that's because you have different things to master in your lifetime. So you were given a different song from me. My song is really different from your song.
Right.
And then further, how we play that song. If you play it like jazz, if you play it like classical, if you play it country, if you play it ska, that's your free will, right? So I was always going to play this song in my life where I was going to be born as a Southern Baptist, so I had some exposure to religious indoctrination. I was probably always going to be drawn to some sort of rational science, because I did go on to have like a microbiology degree. So I went through my cynical phase and my skeptical phase. Now, whether that meant religion and then a science degree, I don't know, but I do think I was meant to transform my mind into these disbelieving phases of my life. And then I think I was always meant to, at some point, find my way back to having this relationship to the metaphysical realm and the spiritual realm, and doing divination and doing the caring counseling that comes with divination. And likewise, you're on a similar spiritual path, but playing that song really differently through your connections with the people, through embedding yourself in the community, through bringing different businesses together. So similar work, but played through really different songs. And that's what true. Each of us is doing in this lifetime.
You know the way I look at it, Kelly? Each of us are philosopher ants, and we're walking around on this tree, and we bite into this really cool leaf, and it falls off the tree as we're biting into it and lands in a river. And we spend the rest of our life going, man, this free will of chewing on this leaf is awesome. And every once in a while, we run into other philosopher ants. They hang out on our leaf, and then they go to their leaf, and then, I think that's how life is. We have the free will to exist in a static order.
Yes. I would imagine that people listening have probably heard some version of this as well. But I've come around to believing that Earth is a really interesting classroom, often hard, sometimes really cool and fascinating and curious. And we are here to learn kind of specific lessons about anger, about appetite, about self-control, about can you wake up from the cave, from Plato's cave, and realize there's more to reality than the shadows on the cave wall. And that's the biggest thing is whether you're getting a psychic reading, tarot reading, medium reading, astrology, runes, pendulums, whatever divination system you're working with. I genuinely believe it is just the crack to get your attention, to wake you up, that there is a whole spiritual matrix outside of mechanistic Earth. And we have to experience the impossible for it to get our attention, because we're paying bills and life is hard and we're getting in fights, or we're falling in love, or we're getting our feelings hurt, or we're getting fired or hired, all of those things that are part of the mundane beats of life. And how do we transcend that to understand that there is this spiritual conversation with perhaps an intelligent designer, if you are in a faith-based system, or an intelligent universe that is trying to participate, that we're in these really hard carbon bodies, with our bones and our tissues and our muscles, and we're in survival mode because Earth, again, is a hard classroom where we have to fight for scarcity. And so we have all these appetites that drive our impulses and our instincts, for better or worse. And then you think something in your mind, and then lo and behold, it happens. And that's cool, but maybe it was a coincidence. Or then maybe you go see a psychic, and they know something about you they shouldn't know. Well, maybe there's a little bit more of your attention. Or the astrologer, or you have the astrology app that just blows your mind away because you feel like they're reading your personal thoughts that you don't share with anyone. All of it exists to get your attention, to start having that spiritual conversation and acknowledging that maybe there's more here driving the beats of our lives than just these animal instincts of our human body.
The Buddha said that life is suffering, and that it's suffering because we desire things we can't have, and that's what causes our suffering. For example, you're looking at the ground coming at you, and you think, man, I really wish I was back on that cliff. You feel me?
Yeah, it does. And we desire things because we are in these human bodies that evolved in a harsh landscape where there was scarcity. We're competing with other animals for sustenance, for food, for calories.
Right.
This is like a cage fight between species that humans have only really kind of relatively recently stepped out of the cage match, unless we go deep sea diving or whatever and need jobs. But, for the most part, we can comfortably sit outside most of that, and then go on to have arts and math and these discoveries and understand these mysteries, like divination, like psychic phenomena. but yeah, I mean, we had that suffering because we were just literally in these really hard containers that had been primed to survive. So we have anger, we have rage, we have jealousy. We want to procreate, we want to declare war, we want to be territorial. Occasionally we want to be sweet and cuddle. And you're trying to then have like a metaphysical experience in these really hard containers that are wired to suffer. And that's why I have loved discovering the phenomena, like the psychic phenomena and the divination that comes through astrology, because once you can get a little idea of these patterns, then you can see where there's tension and how you can break this dysfunction, or how you can navigate past it, or have some equanimity with the hardships that come to you. Illnesses that you didn't anticipate having, something being taken from you that leaves you at a loss. Well, the divination, if you're leaning into it, listening to it, whatever form you do it in, it can make it easier. Not that you get spared pain or hardship, but that you can at least understand this is coming up for me. Now I have some preparation. I have a choice on how I respond to it. Probably not going to like it. It's probably still going to hurt. But at least now I can choose differently to minimize that suffering that I experience. And that I don't perpetuate that harm to others. 20-year-old me would get my toy taken away, and I'd be so angry. And I would lash out, and I would probably cause, immeasurable suffering for my friends around me and with my temper tantrums. Well, thank goodness, right, that we can get past that moment and contain that pain and not spread it to others, and then maybe even kind of cultivate some peace amongst it. And I did that to some level of success, just through the natural process of maturing and getting older. But man, it got a lot easier when I started, listening to divination and working with it intelligently and responsibly, whether it's psychic or astrology.